It wasn't an easy conversation for Kirby and the Georgia Bulldogs. They came back to Athens after getting humbled, pretty beat pretty good by Alabama, 33. No, that was the national championship score. 41-24. Alabama beat the Dogs in Atlanta, and Kirby talked about what they had to do as a program to shift their focus towards the playoffs. He said, we talked about the cold hard truths, and the truths were we didn't play well in the red area. That's the truth. We turned the ball over. That's the truth. And we were really bad on third down. I don't remember that, but probably true. And all those things, and those were all things that we felt we could control. So we focused on those things. We knew we had to get better, had to step up. It was the first time we had really been tested, and our guys responded well to it. It was the first time that they had been tested. I mean, this Georgia team, you can read about it in DAWGSTRUCTION. You can read the anecdotes that I've got. You're not going to read anybody else from anybody else's book. And frankly, it's not as good as ours. Let's just be honest. Um, I have a quote from someone, and I talk about them in the book. Quote, I think our guys just didn't think Alabama was that good. One Georgia insider said, looking back on the game, we kicked Auburn's ass over there, and here's Alabama struggling as they did with the Gators and LSU. I think the kids just thought we would beat them, and it looked like it up 10-0, and then Alabama exploded. We were talking about kids here, 18 to 22-year-old kids. What just happened in their lives matters a lot. There's a lot of stories like that in DAWGSTRUCTION. Make sure you're picking up the link below. The best way to support us is by checking out DAWGSTRUCTION today. Again, from Kirby, we talked about the cold hard truths and the cold hard truths that we didn't play well in the red area. We turned the ball over and we were really bad on third down. And those were all things we felt like we could control. So we focused on those things. We knew that we had to get better, had to step up. It's the first time that we really have been tested and our guys responded well to it. Do you recall a game where Georgia played in the second half and the game was in doubt in the regular season? Clemson? You're talking about 11 games before that? I mean, it may have well have been May when they played that game. Nobody remembered that game by the fall, by the winter in Atlanta. I mean, the UAB game blowout, Carolina blowout, Vandy blowout, Arkansas, Auburn. I mean, Auburn was sort of in doubt in the third quarter in theory. Tennessee was not. The game was over. Florida was not. Mizzou game was nothing but a party. Tech, Charleston Southern. The way in which Georgia beats people now, um, is not only relentless. As a photographer, you'd better be ready to go in the first quarter, the first 20, 25 minutes of the game, because you might miss the only shot that matters in the game. That they're rolling people so fast that you can feel it in the stadiums, on the field particularly, that the other team just they know it. They cannot hang with these guys. And just my take is that uh, they got to Alabama and they got up, and it looked like they were going to roll on through. I'll be frank, I was surprised they were winning 10-0 that quick. And they were. And Alabama was doing nothing. The national championship game was the exact opposite of the SEC championship game. In the SEC championship game, Georgia played pretty well in the first quarter. They played horribly in Indianapolis in the first quarter. The second quarter, Alabama exploded in Atlanta, and Georgia just never could figure it out. It was the fourth quarter where Georgia exploded with 21 points or whatever it was. I mean, Georgia, I don't know if you can teach the same lesson twice to two different teams, because the 22 team will have very different players in positions that matter. Whether you're talking about, um, at running back, defensive line, linebacker, some parts of the secondary, those guys are going to be newer players, if not completely new players. They didn't necessarily have the burden of the outcome of the game on their backs. Now, yeah, Kenny McIntosh did at times. Certainly, Nolan Smith, if you consider him a linebacker, most people don't. But But there's a lot of guys that weren't around for the stress points of the season. You could have gotten into a game with Tennessee there that had become like a track meet, right? That was possible. Now Tennessee turned out to score their first 10 points and then go like 40 minutes before scoring again. But on the field at Neyland, no place shakes and rocks like Neyland Stadium in this league. No, nobody. Maybe Tiger Stadium. Tuscaloosa's not like that. Carolina. I mean, these places are tough to play, but that was the one game where Georgia, you kind of got to watch it. And they did. They responded. I mean, they made some adjustments and took it from there. But, you know, I remember well Christmas time and how freaked out everybody was about Georgia's chances, not necessarily against Michigan, but for what loomed ahead, which was the Alabama game. I don't know about most of y'all, and y'all can comment down below when you're checking out DAWGSTRUCTION. Most people were pretty certain that Georgia was not going to win that game against Alabama. And I think most people, you know what, maybe that's the wrong way to put it. I think most people were only going to believe it when they saw it. I think you can rerun the tape on my views at the time, which was that Georgia should win the game, period. But I got to see it to believe it too. And for Kirby and them, he could go back to that group that was a mature team. I mean, period. They had, you know, they had 17 seniors on that team who were scholarship or super seniors. They had another 15 juniors. Their biggest class is the class coming up right now, which is the sophomores, which had last year set at 22 guys. Now some of those guys have left. He could come in there on Saturday night or Sunday. They didn't get back until relatively late Saturday night. Get in there Sunday and talk to them like they're adults, not like they're teenagers. And Nakobe, Lewis, Jordan Davis, Devontae, these guys understood where they were at. They said to him, "We don't feel like we're really in condition." Um, I don't know if we're going to be able to see that this time. Now, with that said, I'm not sure there's a terminal loss in Georgia's first 12. Okay. The terminal losses will be the SEC championship, the college football playoff, and beyond. That's where you got to make sure your best coaching comes, in that period of time when can they overcome adversity? What will it be like for this team when and if they're down in the second quarter? Because you're entering right now Clemson territory. And what I mean by that is you're kind of challenged once a year. Davo's teams have lost those games often. Kirby's did not last year. I'm trying to think of 2020. They lost to Alabama. They lost to Florida, but they came back against Arkansas. 2020 was a mess. You're not going to always have really adult teams. I don't know how he coaches or teaches this team into maturity the way they're going to need to be to get ready for this season. It is a challenging situation because Georgia is so much better than most teams they play. What happens when you're punched in the mouth? What happens if you don't get punched in the mouth until it's terminal? In 21, Georgia got punched in the mouth and survived it. Can they do that in 2022?